Hello and welcome back to Compiler Programming. Today it's a more macro time, and in particular I finally want to improve on this definition and make it nicer. We will start with trying to figure out what would be a good syntax for that. I think the idea that I have is to um, allow you to specify sort of patterns that would be then matched in the parsing. So this would be similar to how parsers are specified or regular expressions to a certain degree. So something like this. I will say syntax, and then we will have, maybe like it was before, just a bunch of syntax matchers. And then we will have, or actually, if we will have curly braces here, then we don't even need to have other braces there for simplicity. Although it might be easier to parse and easier to understand. I don't know. Let's add the braces for now and then see how we want it to be later. But here is the setup. So it seems very similar to what we had before. And now comes the different part. So the first thing is, I think that the way regular expressions deal with the start of the line could actually be useful here. I'm not sure if that's the right symbol, but for now I will use the same setup as regular expression. So this would be saying that this is actually a statement. Maybe I will use something else to designate that. But I kind of like that, and so I will use the same thing. I said, so we have dollar as the end and this as a start, so they will only match the full statement. And then we need to say the things that we want. Unlike regular expression, I want to make white space insignificant, and if you want specifically white space to be there, which we don't really allow because we just skip white space. So I think this version is better. I think new line will be very explicit, so something like that or like that. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, new line will be an explicit thing that you add here. Okay, so start line, and then we have while, and yeah, I think just like this. Now the next thing is where the difference starts, because right now while requires us to pass in condition as braces, and we would like it so that I can use the same as here, where the condition is actually without braces, and then there is a required curly brace. So how would we do that? Well, let's just say that we have something like match, and I don't care what it is. But we need to also specify the name for this thing. And again, I will do sort of regular expression syntax. Actually, I can even do here, so dot plus. So this would be a regular expression, right? We want, actually, let's put dot star here. So we want anything. And I think it would be nicer if it is a responsibility of the while handler, whoever is here, to check for the size of this, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how to handle this. Maybe there should be a special setup that would say there should be many things, but if there is nothing here, then error out or something. I don't know if that is if that's a good way to handle it, because the big trouble that I will will need to solve, and I don't think anybody really solved it so far, is how to use something like this and at the same time get decent error messages for the user. And this is an interesting challenge, I think. But maybe we'll just take it case by case basis and see, okay, here there is a bad error, so let's see how I can improve it. Anyhow, so this needs to be a statement, then while, then whatever else, and next is interesting because I need to somehow say that I want curly braces here. So I will need to figure out a syntax. Yeah, the trouble with regular expressions is with escaping, right? Because on one hand, I need to say that this is a captured group, and you need to sort of, I will need to somehow receive it as an argument. At the same time, I need to be able to say that I want explicitly either round braces with something, or I want curly braces with something. And I think what might work here is to just say like this. So if I don't have anything inside, then this would be curly braces. But we still need to specify that we want this to be a capture. So we need to provide a name for it. I'm not sure if name should go before or after. So what if we do something different? What if we say body is like this, maybe? Something like this could work. Maybe or while actually should be a string. Yeah, I'm not opposed to this version. It seems pretty decent. I could actually use something like this, but that might conflict with other syntax. So maybe postfix name is actually better. Like you want these, and this will be available as condition. No, this is fine. So something like this would be good, and then the actual setup here doesn't change. The only thing that still will need to be considered is how we deal with the conflicts in the names, but that is something sort of different, and we already have a mechanism roughly to deal with it, so we'll see how it works out. Okay, I will not implement the full regular expression engine to match something like that. Instead, I think I might only allow to have. Actually, let's make it even like this. So yeah, this then is not a full regular expression engine. We only have this stuff. We have keywords. Then you can sort of get a match. And the way this is gonna work is we are gonna look ahead, searching for this stuff, and whatever we capture, we will just put into here. So like it's sort of a delimiter based capture, if you say, since we are not operating on individual. So in regular expressions, there is a big problem that if you want to match, for example, matching parentheses, this is not possible in general. Like Perl style regular expressions can do it to a certain degree, but this is usually rather inefficient. and not very nice to work with. But because we deal with parentheses and curly braces at the decanization time, that means that we don't really have this problem, and I think something like this could actually work pretty easily and pretty nicely. Okay, so we have that. Now let's try to run our tests. Hopefully we should get an errors on parsing this stuff. So test will fail actually. Yes, we have a couple of failed tests, and I think those are the tests that actually sort of use this file. So let's start dealing with that. That would be at the very bottom here somewhere, where we are parsing module or something. Yeah, so it's called token parse, and there is parse macro definitions, constant definitions, and that is that. Okay, so we'll say token parse syntax definition and parse macro definition. So we'll just sort of use this as an example, right? And see how it works out. Okay, we'll start with syntax, and the rest is actually should be checked for errors. So we need to say here, instead of match, we need to say maybe match here as well. Okay, so we have pattern token and the replacement token. Mm. And here actually we'll say tag is, no, I don't actually care what is here. We can even say that the replacement is the rest of this stuff. Yeah. So now we'll say if not pattern token, then we will say panic to do user error. Now we can say rest. So token view replacement is token view rest of view and pick index. So we are basically now parsing this stuff, right? We have syntax, and then we have this pattern. And now what I'm doing is I'm saying, actually, the rest of this stuff, besides this pattern, so I could easily do something like this, right? I can just say, I don't know, 42 times 2. So whatever comes after here, after the arguments, however we want to call them, is replacement. But in this case, our replacement is just a block. That's all it is. Okay, so that is that. And we need to figure out what are we gonna do here. Well, first of all, this actually should fix the test. Because, well, we're not using replacement. Okay, that fixes the test because oh, we now know what to do with this. I mean, we're not doing anything, we're just skipping all of that. But for the parser, that is sufficient, right? The next thing would be to add actually a test for this, and I will do macro. We have a bunch of them. Capture. Yeah. So let's rewrite this test with the syntax instead. Although this one might be actually a bit more complicated to do than the while one, but whatever. Let's do it. So we say syntax, the answer is 42. Well, first of all, it's already nicer because we don't require the second one, but let's figure this out. Okay. So this test will obviously fail, and we'll probably spend the next half an hour or maybe more trying to make it work. Okay, so what do we do with this stuff? That's actually sort of an interesting question, because the way I specified this, it would work perfectly fine as in a traditional sort of recursive descent parsing, top-down parsing, where you get tokens one by one and do something with them. But since we have the operator precedence parsing, that actually might turn out to be quite tricky to express. That is interesting. Should I focus only on statements then? I wonder. I guess it might be an option to just say that, okay, we don't support that, we only support that as a statement. And then this would both still work, but they will not work exactly as we think they will. We can also say that where it is, that this is treated as a sort of an operator, maybe, or we can actually, what we can do is we can keep it as is, where macros are applied before everything else, and they are applied as pattern matches. So then this would more or less literally be just an extension of what we have right now with a different syntax. Do I like that? I mean, let's just go for this version then. Then we don't need to do much. We will only need to change slightly how this works. Okay, so pattern token. Okay, pattern names. Okay, let's just take this stuff. Pattern token group children. Token, yes. So this is where we will need to change the parser slightly and figure out what to do about that. So if token tag is token tag string, then we would push a pattern that says that we actually are looking for any token with this source, so we don't care about its type. Else, if actually I don't need to do token source, I need to do token string or something. Does it work? No. Token string slice. I think that's how it is. Yes. Okay. Maybe let's do a switch on token tag. Case token tag string. So this would be token tag none. And here panic. Unexpected. Non-token or something. Okay. What else can we have? We can have a bunch of operators. Token tag operator. If token source slice equal token source. Oh, right now we're just trying to make the test bus, right? So let me focus on that. In the test here, we are only interested in IDs, which actually now need to be different. So that needs to be like that. Yeah, it's a bit awkward to write it in C strings, but that's how it needs to be now. So we say strings and we support them. And then the rest is gonna be just unimplemented. Panic. Unsupported token tag in a syntax definition. Okay. That looks fine. We have pattern names and we have pattern. Okay. Yeah, this is not going to be very nice to work with, but we will fix it later. Fix me. Maybe combine pattern with the name. I don't know. Okay, replacement. This is an array. I think that it shouldn't be. So let's change the macro type. I think that a replacement should actually be a token view, and let's see what that breaks. So here we will just say replacement, and we don't need to do stuff here. And here we can say token view from token array. And here, replacement, macro replacement. token view source. Okay. Source length. Source items. Actually, not items, it's tokens. Okay. Same thing here, token view from token array. Okay, so that was pretty easy change, and it's good to make it immutable. Token tag ID, token tag integer, token tag hex integer. What else did I forget? Uline. Okay, and value. And group. Group will definitely need to so IDs and groups is definitely something we need to take care of, but that is later on. For now, I think our tests should actually pass because we are using the same old mechanism for actually doing the macro replacement. We're just changing how we are dealing with it, but apparently that is not the case. Yeah, that is because we have this setup here. So let's comment that out for now. Okay, great. So let's continue with the parsing and just enable the next thing. Source spec, so syntax, negative x. And I think I will do something like dot at x. So I'm saying that this matches a single thing, and then this expands to whatever. This is still gonna pass just fine with what we have right now, but later on it will be different. I think I didn't save the file in time. Yep. So it doesn't know what to do with dot, with at, and with other stuff. I think they're actually going to be treated as a single token in our parsing rules. So I'm not exactly sure if it's good or bad here, but let's just do what how it is. Remove operator from here and say that if slice equal token source to slice literal like this, then we are essentially doing what we were doing before with it's kind of this stuff. Except we need to get the next one. So we assert that if I plus 1 more than equal to, let's say, token view pattern is token view from token array. It's just less typing and slightly easier to deal with. So pattern tokens I. Okay. And here, actually, I think it's better to use this version to make sure that we don't go outside the bounds. But anyhow, token view get patterns I, and here what I want to say is more than equals pattern length, panic to do user error for syntax declaration parsing. Okay. Now we get the next one. So this is a more traditional sort of recursive descent parser, but there is no descent here. Like we never actually go into nested sub-expression more or less. So it's a very, very basic parser. So right now I'll just do it like this. If I realize I need something more complicated, then I will do that. But for now, that's okay. And then we say const token star name is token view gets pattern plus plus I, and if name tag is not token tag ID, then we say I need to do user error whatever. I will figure out good error message later. Yeah. This is not shouldn't be not called pattern. Say definition. Definition. Is that better? Yep. Yes. Like that. From const token to slice. Yes, you should have source. Okay. What do we have here? So now we should be able to parse this, I think. Let's see. And we are able to do it. That is great. That is basically the macros that we have here, I think. Yep, we don't have more macros here, so we have the next one. And this is a bit more complicated because it will need to extend how we actually store the macros. So I think what I will do is actually, let me do it like this. Git status. Actually, what is episode name? Okay, it's 133. Git status. I think we'll commit this part. So git commit episode 133, and that would be start on better syntax macro definition. Yeah. And now we can continue with more complicated stuff because that will change more things. Okay. So first, actually, yeah, no, let's comment it out and do refactoring. And what I want to do here is I basically want to do this and introduce a special new type for the macro pattern, because this pattern is captures a single token, and in a macro pattern we will need to be able to match against extra things. We'll need to be able to match against the start of the statement, the end of the statement. We'll need to match these ranges, right? So that's basically how this is going to work. Okay. Macro, this is what you have, but we will introduce something new. Type def struct macro matcher or macro pattern, and the pattern will be, well, it's going to be a tagged unions, so macro pattern tag, and the tag will be macro pattern tag start of statement. Let's be explicit. And then there's going to be end of statement, and we will have like token, single token, pattern, and I will have token sequence. Something like that. That seems nice. So we'll have to say macro pattern tag, and then for start of statement and end of statement, we don't need to do anything, but we do need to have some stuff for single token and token sequence. So macro pattern single token that would have token pattern, or let's call it token pattern. And there is, let's call it capture name, maybe. That would be slice capture name. I kind of like that. Single token. And this needs to go into union. And we have a token sequence, which is why we are doing this at all. Token pattern, token sequence. So for now, it will not have a pattern. It will only have capture name. So maybe I should call it any token sequence. Yeah, let's call it any token sequence. And this will be any token sequence. As you notice, I slightly changed how I name the types. So when I do unions or tagged unions, sort of it is more it's better for type generation because basically these thing becomes part of the tag. It also is part of the type, and it is also the name of the variant sort of in a tagged union, and it doesn't look too bad, and I think it's okay. It's a very easy in generated types in here to deal with this stuff. Okay, now I just need to say dynamic array macro pattern, and we just say array macro pattern pattern. So that will cause a bunch of errors. Let's see what is the problem. Oh, the problem is I still can't remember the syntax of C. That's okay. Yep, now that's much closer to what I expected to happen. And we can do things. So array macro pattern, that's fine. The only thing is we now change this. We say macro pattern. Tag is macro pattern tag single token name is pattern name, and pattern is well, nothing. So we don't even need to put it here. Or maybe we should, I don't know. Okay, so this goes away. We take this part, and this is sort of the opposite. So if it's an identifier, we say that pattern, yeah, it was matching on the source. Okay. So it was like this and without this stuff. It's fine. And here it's the same, except we only match on the tag. We don't have pattern names anymore. Syntax error. I'm missing. Okay, and this one is not correct. Maybe? I cannot convert from slice to token tag. Name is not a member. of token. I think this was capture name, right? Capture name is not a member of. Okay, so that's great. Now we need to change this stuff here as well. And like this, macro, macro. Okay, so we just say slice, token string slice. Okay. And here is this one where we don't care about the tag. Oh. Here we don't have a pattern. We only have a pattern name is pattern name source. Is that a member? It's a capture name. Okay. Now we need to change the actual thing that deals with the parsing. So this is not a good thing because it just cannot happen because now we have a single array instead of. Actually, no, this still can happen, but this is fine. Pattern, pattern, macro, pattern star pattern, or item, item name, right? Capture name. Oh, here we need to do a switch now, right? Well, let's here switch is not necessarily required, but let's do it anyway. Switch of item tag case macro pattern tag start break. So start of statement end of statement single token and any token sequence. And this goes inside of here. Okay. So that's better. These two don't need to do anything. And this one, panic to do capture name, define capture name, or not name, define capture for a token sequence. Something like that. And here is the matcher. And this is the mid of it. We will also need to have a switch here on the macro pattern. So we start, we go through the tokens. I think I will actually change how it works slightly. So let's get rid of these two and then say to do replace with flags on macro pattern. We'll get back to this in a moment, but as I saw how this matching works, it would be easier to deal with it that way. So we remove it from here as well. And that means that we can simplify stuff here. So we do switch. This would be exactly the same as it was before. Oh. That is kind of awkward. So we have a separate function for matching the pattern that just takes a subview and tries to match it. Okay, so that means that this doesn't actually go into here, and instead we have token match pattern to take care of. Array token pattern, and instead it will be array macro pattern. But this will also change in a second. I just don't want it to be that way. Okay. So it would be something like this, I guess. Yeah, the whole system here would need to change in a second, but I want to sort of take it step by step to have working program as much of the time as I can. Okay, view match pattern, yeah, item single token, token pattern, something like that. Pattern tag. Cannot convert from const token pattern to const. Okay. Great. We don't need this array anymore. Okay. Everything should still work exactly as it was, but we'll see. It does. That's great. Let me think what I want to work on next. I think that is very interesting. Okay. So I have macro. Now it's syntax. I can try to do start and end of statement. At least. Well, let's do start and end of statement. should be able to define and use a syntax macro. Syntax macro. Matching start and end of statement. The test for this is going to be very tricky. So it should go something like this. We say foo, that is going to be start and end match, right? And that would be 42. And then we need to say that something like foo is S32. Let's change it to S64 to be slightly easier. 64. Foo is 20 and foo. So the way this is supposed to work now is that this will not match or should not match. And this should, so instead of looking up this variable, this will actually just replace it with exactly 42, and this is what is going to be returned. And then we should get our test passing. And right now, if we try to run this test, I believe what's going to happen is we will first crash on these things. And even if we implement it, even if we learn how to parse it, then next problem will be that we will match these foo, so we'll have like 42 equals, so we'll have another crash where we try to replace this with, like we try to assign to an immediate, which makes no sense or something. So let's run the tests. And yeah, we have unsupported operator in 6 definition. This is what I expected to have. That's great. What is that operator? That operator is caret. Okay. And here we need to yeah, so this is where I was saying it's not even that this needs to be flagged on the macro pattern. This needs to be a flags on the macro itself. So I need to say bool match or something like statement start and statement end. Like this. Okay. So let's put it in here and say bool statement start is false. Statement end is also false. And here we say true. And if we say dollar, then we say true. Now here I say to do verify that this operator is first. verify that this operator is last. So we don't want later on for people to say something like, foo and then caret. Like this will not make any sense. I mean, right now it will work, but I don't think that's a good thing. So maybe we shouldn't support that. It's not going to affect functionality for now, so I'll not focus on this. And I'll say statement start is statement start, and the same thing for end. Okay, so this should take care of the parsing, but we will still the test will still not succeed because we will still match this because our matcher doesn't care whether whether we actually match the full statement or not. So that's something that we need to fix now. Let's still see that failure. Yes. Should not have chosen the macro if pattern lengths do not match. So this is kind of interesting. This is not exactly the thing I would expect to fail. Let's just say that. But I know, let's look at that. Should not have chosen the macro pattern if lengths do not match. Did I? Okay, now I'm slightly confused. It seems fine to me. I wonder why we got here. Token match. Subview. Interesting. So this is actually not a new bug. It's a bug that was here before that. So that's actually interesting. Because this token match pattern should actually return a token view, I guess, to say how wide is the thing that it actually matched, or it's not even that it needs to return token view, it needs to return like a mapping. What was happening here in 2 steps needs to happen in 1 step, more or less. But this is a separate actually issue from what we are dealing with right now. We might still have to do the refactoring a bit later, but for now that's not what I want. Instead, what I want to say so now we need to check for matches to start and to end. How do I do to start? So start means that we should only do I equals 0 here, more or less. So let's do that. If macro statement start and I is not equal to 0, then break. What about statement end? Statement end should actually fix the bug right now, kinda. I mean, for this case, but it will not fix it fully. So for statement and, how do we want to deal with that? We need to say so let's do it this way. This will accept the full pattern, and macro store macro array macro pattern is okay, this builds, but this is not what I wanted to say. In here I need to say that if so we need to extract this index into here, say that if I is not equal to view length, so if macro statement and return false. So the idea here is that we go through this this slice that we're trying to match, this view, and if the end of this view did not we didn't match to the end of the statement, then we have not actually matched. So I'm not sure if this will work, but we can try to run the tests and find out. If it doesn't, we will go and debug. And it actually works, which is great news. Not reset minus of rm minus cached. No, this was the wrong command. I always forget how to unstage. Is it reset minus soft? Let's try it. It's easy to create one. Okay, whatever. I need to learn more Git, or I don't know, not use Git. Git commit episode 133 support macro matches on start and end of statement. So this is nice. What else do we need to support? Well, we need to be able to match on curly braces. That shouldn't be hard actually at all. And in fact, this is interesting. So we could go it in a couple of ways, how to treat this stuff. One way would be to allow sort of any matches between specified matches. So here there are two specific patterns, like it's specifically while and specifically curly, and in between can be anything, right? And we naturally understand that this makes sense. We can match that, at least like people can look at the thing and understand how it should work, and we can make the machine do the same thing. The next thing that we can do is it require implementing more complicated matching, where we would say, for example, something like this. I allow anything at the end as long as it is a single thing. And this is gonna be a bit more tricky because we need to realize that there is this end match, and we have one token before the end, and then we allow anything in between. Uh, if we don't want to do like proper regular expression stuff, which is gonna be a bit too complicated for my taste. But this is something that we technically can support. Uh, we can also support the inverse of this, which is uh, something like this, where you say, uh, like, it has to be a condition, or I don't know. Like, this is more precise, right? This would be a version that we more or less, this is more or less equivalent to what we have right now. So that should work as well. But I like the other version better. But I like this flexibility because that means that people can specify whatever they want in terms of the syntax, and that's very neat. Now let's continue this. We need to say that should be able to capture curly braces. Okay. Define and use syntax macro matching curly brace block. So how would this look like? Mm, well, let's call it block. And then this is body. And this should be here actually. Yeah. Body and body. So this does literally nothing. And we would say body 42. Should still work though, like this. But it might not, because now we actually need to uh, improve our parsing and kind of look behind, in a sense, where we need to say, okay, this is, so maybe I do want to put them in front. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Let's keep them here. Okay, so that should work. Let's try to run it. We will see unknown, unknown token tag. This is what I thought we would see, because it has no idea what to do with the group. But dealing with the group is actually very simple. It is the same as dealing with this stuff. So dynamic array push, macro pattern, token source is, we say, group tag is token group tag. Tag is not the member of token group. Is it like this? Yeah, it's group type. I need to fix that. It should be group tag. Okay, so that is pretty straightforward. So if we encounter curly, we see the curly, and here we can say if dynamic array length of token group children, then panic nested group matches are not supported yet. like there is actually no reason why we would not later on support something more complicated. Like you say, I don't know, that it's specifically only 42 inside the braces that we will match. And maybe that will subside the previous video that I did about literal stuff, but maybe not. I don't know. So there is a lot of possibilities. Right now, I'm trying to implement what I see I'm actually need right now, but later on we might extend it to do more things. Okay, we will still get an error now about unknown operator because this is different now. Unsupported operator in its syntax definition. Yep. Okay. So. I'm not going to do the stack. Actually, we can do something pretty funky here. So what we need to do is we need to do basically the same thing here, except that, well, you'll see in a second. So our operator is this. We still need to look ahead. Maybe I will turn this into macro or something. That doesn't matter. But instead of pushing, we need to say if or macro pattern star last pattern is dynamic array last of pattern, and if not last pattern, then user error, right? And then we say last pattern capture name is this. I mean, if we didn't, like right now, tokenizer sort of lumps together all different non-ASCII or sort of non-letter stuff into operators. And maybe a better approach would be the same thing as Rust does, where we always split them apart, and then the thing that sort of the next stage collapses them together. I don't know. I might try that out and see if it works. I might do a video about that, or I might do it offline. I don't know. But this would be an interesting thing to try because that, like, both of those things have their problems. Having operators collapsed simplifies the parsing in some places, but makes it complicated in these cases where you sort of don't want to force people to separate the dot with at, otherwise it will look weird. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. I could also just sort of do pre-processing here and have it such that these are still split into two fake operators. I don't know. There is stuff to think about. But here, this is pretty straightforward. Yeah. So that is good. Last pattern, capture name. Capture name is not, yes, that should be, so if or switch on last pattern tag, case macro pattern tag single token, then one thing, and then we have any token sequence, and it's another thing. So this would be single token. Maybe I will lift capture name to be on all of them, if that would make sense. I don't know. any token sequence. Okay, that builds. Will it work? That is an interesting question. I think it actually might. Let's see. No, it does not. Could not parse the expression. That is sad. Let me quickly look through this if I forgot anything. So, what is the test again? We say, oh, yeah, it definitely won't work because this should be block, not body. And it works. Great. Let's commit that as well. Episode 133. Support. Syntax captures based on for group tokens, i.e. phrases, this and this. Okay, great. What's next? Now let's look at our stuff. I guess the last thing that is left is this. And this would be, I guess, the most tricky one to do. But we can try. So one thing we can do is we can create a macro that would be a comment. And right now it even will work as expected, which is kind of funny. We still need to figure out the macro precedence, which right now doesn't exist. Like in which order do you want to apply the macros? But I think this would be kind of neat. You should be able to define and use a syntax macro matching. Actually, there are even two cases. We will now do the first one, the easy one, and then there will be a harder one. Sequence at the end. Okay. So we'll call it comment. And this would be ignore. And it will be nothing. Right? So we are just saying that any block that starts with comment, we'll just capture all of this stuff and we will not do anything with it. This is kind of neat. I mean, in this sense, like I could probably just implement comments that way because like if I make it such that any like I could make a tokenizer that keeps all of the tokens or something. I don't know if that would be good, but this is kind of fun because this comment would actually check that whatever's inside is valid syntax. So maybe we'll call it disabled. Yeah, that's something like that. Anyhow, comment. So the test for this will be x is 42. Then we have comment x equals x plus 1 and return x. So comment should just remove this statement essentially from existence, and x will be returned unchanged. But first we'll have an error because we don't know what to do with ... add. Yep, unsupported operator in syntax definition. So that is fine. And for now, I'm not caring about copy pasting. I will do a separate pass and take care of that. So this is like this, and the difference is we have a pattern, any token sequence. We do not have pattern, but we do have a capture name. So that's fine. Now we should have a problem inside of matching. And this would be a challenge to implement. Yep, to define capture for token sequence. Uh-huh. So we are back here. So how do we want to deal with this stuff? So this match pattern, I almost feel like I want to inline it into the actual implementation because it will not be, it will be probably easier than trying to make that work by passing. So let's start with that. This is going to be quite ugly, so prepare for that. This is a big nested thing, but we can do this. So if macro statement ending continue, I guess. So this is continue. And here we basically do what we were doing here. Does that make sense? View is undefined. This should be subview and subview. Okay, let me disable this test for a second to see that we haven't broken all the rest of the stuff by doing this in line. We did. So what is the issue? Yeah, so the problem is we now have, I wish that I would get a warning about this. Let's not call it I either, to also help read this stuff. I declared identifier. Does that help? Shouldn't have chosen the macro if pattern lengths do not match. That thing again. That is interesting. I mean, I did disable this test, so this is happening before. Okay, what is going on? We go through this, we slice it, we get the length. Okay, we start with pattern index 0. We go through pattern length. We get the macro pattern from there. We check this stuff. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is why I didn't want to inline it here. It's because I need to jump to this loop. I need to say that. Yikes. This is terrible. So do I not want to inline it then? Well, I guess not. Okay, let's see how it will look like not inlined. Our problem right now is that we need to let's re-enable the test, or actually let's check that I did correctly first. Yep, let's re-enable the test and see that we have that matching support. Okay, good. So how do I match this stuff? What I want to do is say that macro single token. Well, okay, let's do sort of TDD, and actually I will make the test pass first. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes it's a good practice. In here, we just do nothing, and that will well, sort of. No, we need to rewrite this loop. It needs to do something else. Okay. U64 pattern index is 0. While pattern, and then we say U64 view index. So now previously our pattern index would always match where inside of the tokens we are looking for, but now they are separate because one pattern can match more than one token. So we say while view index is less than view length. Okay, here actually we can do a for. No. Well, yes. So this is so this previous loop, and then this view index will go into here. And in here we will do the following. So yes, this is how it was before. I know I'm kind of code pasting the same code, but it just helps me think to look at it that way. Sort of reconstruct it from scratch rather than trying to modify the original one. So the difference is that now we are not automatically incrementing the pattern index. Instead, we will only be incrementing it in ourselves. So here we'll say pattern index equals 1 or plus plus. So if it is a single pattern and we matched, then we look for the next thing in the pattern. And if it is any token pattern, then we basically just matched. I mean, for now, we will need to change it in a few minutes, but we don't increment the index. And in here, we would need to say that if pattern index, so here we'd actually also say pattern index less than pattern length, and yeah, if pattern index is not pattern length, then return false. Did not match full pattern, and this is there are tokens remaining in the statement after the statement end, after the match. Okay, so this should allow us to skip past the current assertion. We will have the next one that will again complain about the different length. And this is where we'll need to do a bigger change still. Apparently I also had an error. Yeah, we need to have it here. Okay, actually we don't even explode, which is kind of interesting. Syntax macro matching sequence at the end. Huh. Yeah, this condition is actually not correct, because the last one is any. So I guess it should be something like array last of macro pattern tag is something like this. So if the last thing in the pattern is anything, right, then which is what we have right now, then we will never get to the end. So something like pattern, we need to add an extra thing. Pattern index is not pattern length -1, and so this is a quite complicated condition. Maybe I want to do it slightly differently. I want to say bool no, this is fine. Okay, so we need to either match the full pattern, or we'll need to end at the last pattern that is a sequence, or is that not like this, right? It is either these and not. Okay, last. Okay. That seems reasonable to me. Something like that. Okay. What now? Yes, okay. Now I actually get the error that I was expecting about should not have chosen the macro if pattern lengths do not match. How do we deal with that? So the thing is, we will need to, well, here's actually fine. What we need to do is we need to change the API of this, where this would accept array, array const token Peter, or how do I want to do it? I guess it is something like this. Array token view star match out match. So the start will say dynamic array. I think it's clear. Does that work? Yes. Now we just need to create that array. So we'll say array token view. So now instead of passing a token view that consists of a token, we will have an array of token views that allows us to say it will be either one token that we will match, or it will be more than one token that we will match. Okay. Array token view. I could also do like create those lazy expression tokens maybe, but let's keep it right like this. Match dynamic array make of array token view, and let's clean up after ourselves, destroy match. Okay, and now we pass in that thing. Good, that does not fix our problem by itself, but it allows us a way to start dealing with it. So instead of just doing this stuff, we will actually start pushing the token views into the thing. So dynamic array push out match, and here will be token view. So tokens is view tokens plus view index, and length is 1. So whenever we match a single token, we push in this token view that is a single token. But in here, we will do something else. So here we need to say macro pattern star any token any token and starts with 0. And in here, we need to say that if any token, then we need to push that. No, not like this. We need another index. We need to say any token start index. Maybe. Okay, let's do a verbose version. If I can simplify it later, I will do it. So basically the idea is when we get to here, let's maybe start with this case. It will be easier to explain what's going on. When we get to a sequence, we need to save our start index, which is going to be u index, right? So let's even be more explicit. That's any token start u index. We start where we started in the sequence, right? And now that I'm thinking about it, this loop should totally be the other way around. Yeah. Yep. This should be the other way around. Okay, so let's do that. While so condition still stays. We want that check, but we will not increase view index here either. So what we will do is we'll actually iterate over the pattern. So maybe we want pattern index plus plus. And here we would say view index plus plus. Yeah, that's probably better. And in here then, we can move this to be in line. And well, we say while view index or view index less than view length plus plus view index. And then this will slightly change, but for now this is what we want. So we just start this position and we match everything to the end. And then we push this with any token start index. So view length minus start index. That sounds reasonable. Does it build? No, it does not. It's because that should be dot. Here I'm missing a semicolon, and that should be dot. That should be 4. Okay, let me again disable this test because I did the change. It still works. We can re-enable this. Or actually, no, let's keep it disabled because I'll make another change. Now, I need to change this stuff. So instead of accepting a subview, it will accept a match. And this will obviously not work because this needs to be array token view. And this will be dynamic array a length of match. Okay. Dynamic array get. Yeah, this says I cannot put a token view there where I expect it to have a token. Well, here we can say assert that let's do it like this. Token view single token view. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe the other version was actually better. I think it was. Okay. That's not going to be a big change, but instead of saving token views, we are actually going to save token point. Yeah, we're going to put tokens in there. Although if we put tokens, we will have the issue that this is tricky. Okay, I'll keep it that way for now, and then we'll see. Token view single token view is this stuff. If single token view length is not 1, let's be specific. We say that is now good. Single token matches should have a single token. Okay. And now we can do token view get and 0. Okay, so that should now still work, hopefully. It does. Great. And now, how do we do the rest? So we will have this sequence now, and it is not supported, but we need to. Right now, I will actually do a hack, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Parse macro match. Apply macro replacement. Okay, how does macro replacement actually work? Well, actually, we can simplify this quite a bit. I mean, that's okay. And that needs to go into here, but we will not get the token. We will just say that you get this stuff, and we will need to change this hash map to be something else. Macro replacement map, where are you? Macro replacement map, you replace it to token, but you will be replacing to token view. Will cause some issues, of course. Okay. That's fine. So this would be token view. Okay, we have view here, right? Hash map get. So the first thing, this just copies the token, and that works for majority, but it does not work here. So here we say continue instead of break. We will do our pushing ourselves. We don't even need to copy it. Let's change this around slightly. So in case of both the group and all of this stuff, we copy them over. None does nothing, and this does this kind of stuff. So I guess I want to... how do I want to do this? It's awkward either way. Basically, in one way we will allocate an extra thing. In other way we will have a bunch of copy paste. Okay, fine. This will work like this. So if we have the view, so if we don't have the view, that is just a straight up copy. If we do have a view, then we need to do stuff. And I'm not in love with this mechanism, to be honest, so I might consider something else as well, something like more explicit. So if we go back here, maybe I will force to say something like this, right? Or at whatever, something to signify that this is expected to be a replacement, because right now it's a bit too easy to make a mistake in either direction. So you might accidentally replace something, and you also might sort of expect something to be replaced and it's not, and this would be just better. But this is, again, this is a separate topic. Right now we are trying to make this work. So we get this view, and that just means that we need to loop for u64i0, not I. Let's say that view index is 0, view index is less than view length plus view index. And here we actually need to recurse, sort of in the same way as we do in here. Okay. this goes out, I guess. And we say const token star token do apply macro replacement. Yeah, the difference is this will actually get an extra argument, which will be array const pointer star result. And this is what we will pass into here. And to apply macro replacements and context map source result, or actually no, we don't want to recurse. Yeah, we don't want to recurse. I am doing a stupid thing, because if we recurse, we can end up first with infinite loops, and we can also do bad things. Yeah, that's not good. In here, we literally just need to push stuff to result. So we do this stuff. Yeah, I think that's fine. View index token copy is token view get star view index. Something like that. Let's try it. Okay, we are no longer crashing, but we are not working either. A known operator equals. Should be able to define and use as index macro matching a sequence at the end, and it is yes. No, yes. No, it should be fine. So let's verify this stuff. Tokens is view tokens plus this. That makes sense. And the length is, well, wherever we matched to. Seems okay. That seems fine. Let's try to look in the debugger what's going on. Because now I'm not sure exactly where the trouble is. I mean, I think this error comes from the fact that we replaced part of the expression, but token apply macro replacement. Wait a second. Yeah. So this is the issue. So we need to say U64 match length, or actually S64. No, U is fine. We should not have 0 length. Is not equal to 0. So if match length, then this is the replacement. Yes. And now we need to change this one, u64, to return. So this is return 0, and this returns 0, and 0. And here we say view index. Let's try like that. Here we go. Great. I think that is all the components that we need to make that work. Almost, actually. There is one last thing that will not work, but let's commit that one. Commit episode 133, support any token sequence matches at the end of a syntax macro. Okay, so that is fine. And the last one is about this stuff. So should be able to define and use a sequence in the middle. Okay. Well, let's continue the comment stuff. I'll say comment start, ignore, and then comment end, right? So this is gonna be terrible. So let's remove these things. And now we will do horrible thing. So this will be comment start, comment end. So this stuff now +1 should be commented out as if commented out basically by the macro. This is pretty terrible, but it's kind of nice at the same time. I don't know. I didn't want to wrap the whole expression into it because I also want to test that it actually works when we have it at a place that is different from like not matching start and end basically. Let's see. Source. What do we need to change? Well, we need to change the matching, I would guess. Right? Yeah. So this do nothing should turn into something else. Well, first of all, let's see what our test says. I think it will do the wrong thing. Unknown descriptor type. That is pretty funky. Yeah, so this is bad error message, but this did not match, I assume. And it ended up that we left with this expression and it has no idea what to do with this expression. So this is what I think is happening right now. Let's just implement the actual thing that we need to. And here's how it works. We can say macro pattern star peak is 0 or pattern index +1 less than pattern length, then dynamic array get of pattern index plus pattern index. Actually, no, pattern index +1, otherwise it's 0. So we are sort of looking ahead one in our sequence, and we will check that if the next one matches the token that we are looking on right now, that means that this is not how to say, this is where we stop, essentially. So looking here, maybe it will be more understandable what it means, right? We matched while and we start to look for stuff. And as soon as we match this, we need to stop looking for stuff. So this is what we do. We get this matcher and we use it to know when to stop this iteration here. Okay, so we say if peak and so first of all, we need to assert that not peak ili or peak tag is macro pattern tag single token. So we expect this delimiter to be single token, and I will modify the definition to support that correctly. And now we can say that that is like this. Const token is token view get of view index if peak and peak and not, oh, actually, and token match token match what token peak single token pattern. So if we found something, then we break, right? Yes, we break and we will go into the next loop here. We will end up here and we will do the right thing. The only thing is here, I shouldn't be using view length. I should be using view index. No? That seems reasonable to me, at least. Let's see if that seems reasonable to the build system and to the tests. First of all, yes, that would be pattern, I guess. It's macro pattern. And this one needs to be ampersand. Okay, that looks good. Let's try to test. And we have it working. Amazing. So support any token match in the middle of the expression. And now we are actually ready to try out this stuff. Let's see if it will work. So we remove this and we leave it here. Well, moment of truth. Maybe there is still a bunch of debugging to make. But there isn't. So this is pretty cool because now we actually we have a much more capable system that can do complicated matches. We can specify sort of at least the type of token here in certain cases that it needs to look for. I might still go back to original one where this was just while, because this would be a bit easier maybe. I don't know. We'll see if that is what I want to do. And I can't yet specify fully the token type, but I think for operators it doesn't matter because they're sourceful match, right? Can just do this and it will be the operator. And for curlies we already have this stuff, so I think this should be capable enough to match most things that we would want to, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so this goes away. Again, let's run the tests. And that just means that we can actually rip out the old macro system. So syntax. Yeah, so this thing now goes away. This was worse than what we have right now. We can get rid of this here. And let's still run the tests. They still all work. Everything is great. 133 gets rid of old macro definition setup. Great. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching and hopefully see you next time.